Kristen Keith, joined by Steve Patterson, the athletic director at the University of Texas. Thanks so much for joining me. How do you think the panel went today?
I thought it went well. You got a chance to get different perspectives, both from the university and from the press and from others. I think it's an opportunity for us to try to get out there and tell our story.
Now, today's panel was entitled, Where Does the Money Go? So where do you think and how do you think money should be distributed between the programs?
Well, at our school, about a third of it goes to staff, about 10-11% goes to debt service, about 6-7% goes to scholarships, about a quarter of it goes to game ops. Well, you've got two sports really that generate any revenue for the most part. Football is the largest revenue generator virtually at almost every university. Men's basketball makes some money at most universities. We're fortunate at Texas in that baseball makes a little bit of money, and at some schools in the Midwest or the Northeast, hockey will make a little bit of money. But all the rest of the sports run in the red, and so you've got to have a model of how you're going to support all the Olympic sports, the other 17 sports that we have that don't make money, and that's by distributing some of the revenue that comes in for football and men's basketball over to cover the expenses of the rest of the sports.
Now, people are scared that some of those sports aren't going to get the money that they deserve, especially if we start to compensate or pay athletes. Do you see that being a problem in the future?
Absolutely. I think most universities, there's only a handful of schools that operate at break even or in the black. And so if you start paying the football players, paying the men's basketball players, it's going to put tremendous financial pressure on a lot of schools in this country. And what's going to happen, quite frankly, is they're going to cut the opportunities by eliminating sports, eliminating scholarships. And that's bad for the country as a whole and bad for student athletes as a whole.
So what do we do to solve this problem? How do we compensate athletes without maybe putting, money in their pocket? How do we compensate them instead?
Well, I think the reality is that if you look at a school like the University of Texas, if you're a football player on a full ride, the benefits you receive, room, board, books, tuition, training, and medical is about $69,000 a year. You don't pay any taxes on that. So that puts you in the top third of household incomes in the United States. If you look at the men's and women's basketball team, it's about $77,000 a year for the same benefits. And we put the taxes on that, it puts you in the top quarter of the household incomes in the United States. So I don't think that those student athletes are being terribly disadvantaged by being in the top quartile or top third of the household incomes in the United States. We're coming to a university like the University of Texas, walking out with a degree and no debt.
So perhaps those student-athlete scholarships are worth more than maybe people are really thinking they're worth.
They're worth far more than people understand. That, along with the connections you get, the lifelong associations you get with the successful alums who are there, it's a great way to start a career. People meet their spouses, people start their families there. People don't give us enough credit for the value that people get in an athletic scholarship.
Now, we're jumping in a whole new issue with the O'Bannon case and that ruling coming down. How do you compensate an athlete for their likeness and image?
Well, the judge's ruling was that it's $5,000 a year to be put into trust that they can collect after they get out of the university. It'll be an expense that we just have to add to the rest of the expenses in our budget and make sure that we have revenues to cover. And I think it's really, quite frankly, unclear right now, based on what the judge's ruling is, of exactly what rights to the likeness and image that you have out there. I asked the question, if we're paying for it, what rights do we have to use it? And that's not been determined yet.
Steve, this is your second time to join a forum of the Big 12. How do you think it's going?
Well, I was an advocate for this. I think it's a real positive. At the end of the day, these are not easy stories to tell in tiny sound bites. And so you need a forum like this where you can sit and discuss issues, have different people on different sides of the issue, talk about it over the course of an hour. And I think we've been, I hope, successful so far.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us, Steve Patterson, the AD at Texas, and thanks for watching the Big 12 Digital Network.